Right. Good. Good. The show must go on. So I think we're just going to go ahead and start. Then we're going to take a break, and hopefully more people will show up and drop in over the course of the day. The theme of our event today is national populism. Because there is a liberal theory of politics and the liberal sort of idea of an end of history, and that their ideas and their utopias are finally victorious, and nothing illiberal exists anymore. It's a thing of the past. That's not true, because there are currently very strong trends all over the Western world where the people are protesting against the current developments. And national populism is an expression of that. Donald Trump's election went against the will of the mass media. I don't think he's a savior of any kind, but I think that's an indication that the people will vote and will act against the instructions they get from the mass media elites and the political elites. Brexit is another such example, where the people have voted against the will of the elites. And populism, generally speaking, is the idea that the interests of the people are separate from or opposed to interests of the elites. National populism, more specifically, is of course the trend, or in politics, or the trend, or the idea in politics that elites have created globalism, mass immigration, breaking down the nation states, and making everyone into a globalized sort of world citizen, and moving cheap labor over borders, dissolving national identities. And people don't appreciate that. The people don't play along with it. The AfD in Germany gets many millions of votes. Le Pen got, I don't remember how many, like 20 million votes or something in France. And there are big national populist parties popping up everywhere in Europe and in America and the white world, basically. I got a question when I was on Ramsey Paul and Tina's show, Happy Homelands, about when demographic changes make it impossible for a nationalist party to get elected because we become a minority. That's not why I'm interested in national populism, because I think that we're going to have a national populist party, everyone is going to vote for them, and that's going to magically solve our problems. I don't think democracy works. I think democracy is fake. I think it's a reality show on TV. Just a simple example, of course, like I mentioned Brexit. I was in the summer of 2016, but nothing has happened. Donald Trump got elected in 2016 because he was going to build a wall. There is no wall. So there is no automatic relationship between the votes or wills of the people and what happens in reality. Those two things are disconnected. But national populism as a trend in politics is an interesting current to follow as an indication of the fact that nationalism is a reality, and it's here to stay, and it's a part of human nature, and it's a part of the future, and it's a stable trend. That's what these two gentlemen, Roger Eatwell and Matthew Goodwin, write in this book, National Populism, The Revolt Against liberal democracy. Roger Eatwell is Emeritus Professor of Comparative Politics at the University of Bath. Matthew Goodwin is the Professor of Politics at the University of Kent. They define national populism. National populists prioritize the culture and interests of the nation and promise to give voice to a people who feel that they have been neglected, even held in contempt by distant and often corrupt elites. And they argue that national populism is here to stay. It's not a passing trend. And I think that's a bit what we're going to talk about today. And there are different causes in society for national populism. One of those causes is distrust. Distrust in the elites. Lately, I think everyone has followed on the news the death of Comrade Epstein, the supposed suicide. The thing is that it's not people like Alex Jones who think that it's not a suicide. No one believes that it's a suicide. From the left to the right, no one believes in the media narrative, in the acceptable narrative. So there is a huge distrust in the information we get from the mass media. That's just one example of it. Another cause that they cite is the de-alignment of politics. It used to be that politics was talked about in terms of left and right, and in economic terms, for example, that's what we're debating. Mainstream political parties, of course, play along with that narrative. But when it really comes to the core of it, those things go out the window. An interesting example is in Sweden, the neighboring country, of course. Sweden Democrats got a lot of votes in 2010 and 2014. What happened in 2014 was a thing they called Decemberöverenskommelsen, the December Agreement. In December of 2014, the big parties created a cartel. So the left parties and the right parties joined hands because the one single important thing for politics is to destroy the country and keep mass immigration going, so that no political parties that protests against that process is allowed any influence. And they displayed that very clearly, that the supposed differences between the different parties went out the window, because the real defining line in politics is between globalism and the destruction of national identities on the one hand, and roots, belonging, national belonging, identity on the other hand. That is the real dividing line in politics. And when that is at stake, everything else goes out the window. And the mainstream political parties all over Europe have proven this again and again. And that is one of the causes of national populism, because people are protesting against this. They want their countries. There's one. They cite a study here about Brexit, that people were willing to give up a lot of financial advantages just to keep their local identities. So that when the argument was that, is this good or bad for the economy, staying or getting out of the EU for the UK's case, people were willing to take the risk of taking a hit to the economy, because their roots and their identities and who they are and where they belong was more important. And that is a part of human nature. We are evolved creatures with tribal identities. We related, genetically related to the tribes we live in, and that is how human nature works. And when the elites have these massive utopias to destroy those things, because they want to mold the world in their image of a globalized citizen that just moves over borders like economic units, people don't want to play along. So that's what we're going to talk about, national populism. The first speaker, where is he? There he is, good.